Hello, and welcome to Allegheny County Library's Let's Get Lit. This is where we talk about exciting titles so you, our patrons, can know what to read next. We will be talking about hot new titles to the library and also still burning titles, which may be older but are ones we have loved. Let's Get Lit is available in video format on the ACLS YouTube as well as in podcast format on Apple, Google, and Spotify, so you can subscribe for updates when we release new episodes. Let's Get Lit will be bi-monthly, and we would love your feedback as we do this. Contact information will be in the description as well as at the end of the episode. Any titles mentioned will have links to our catalog in the description as well. Now, let's get lit.
I'm Allie.
I'm Shane.
I'm Liz.
I'm Laura.
And today's episode is our New Year's episode. Today we're going to be talking about some questions and answering those, mostly about how 2020 went. What was the best read and or movie of 2020 for you?
Well, I have quite a few.
Well, now you have moved on to a clipboard, which I very much appreciate.
I have 7 pages.
I see that.
Wow.
I appreciate
Wow.
your dedication.
So if we have the time. I guess I'll go with the one I guess I'll come down on my favorite of the year, which is the book called The Big Goodbye, Chinatown and the Last Years of Hollywood. I love 1970s era Hollywood history, and Chinatown is in my top 3 movies of all time, so I'm really like an easy target for this book. I thought I knew every behind-the-scenes detail that went into the making of the film, but this story really gives you much more than what was publicly known. It mainly illustrates the collaboration on the conceptual level, the writer Robert Towne and director Roman Polanski, each contributing as much as the other to what ended up on the screen. Each participant in the production of the movie is given intimate descriptions to really show what they brought with them and how the film would not have been made without each of them. Also delicately explores the way the 1960s ended with the Manson murders and the end of the big Hollywood factory-style filmmaking, coalescing to bring such a dark film to the mainstream. You always hear how filmmaking is a collaborative medium, but rarely is that concept so intricately explored as it is in this book about the making of Chinatown.
Say Nothing was my favorite book, best to read. It's a true story of murder, memory in Northern Ireland by Patrick Keefe. And it begins with the abduction of Jane McConville, a widow, a mother of 10. Her disappearance would haunt her orphan children, perpetrators of this terrible crime, and a whole society in Northern Ireland for decades. It unearthed facts that I had no idea happened, and I lived through that era, at least part of it, and I was amazed, and I'm still amazed because the end of the story is shocking.
I had a ton that I loved, and if you want to hear most of them, go to New and Noteworthy, one of the episodes we did, and that's going to give you a lot of mine. But the series, I wanted to talk about something different because I really talked about everything I liked. I've already pretty much talked about. So I liked the, this isn't new to last year, but it was new to me. So it was the Hilary Mantel Wolf Hall trilogy. And I have never in my life, I don't know how she even, I don't know how she did it. She picks you up and plops you down into Tudor England. And that's where you stay while you're in her story. And her research is impeccable. And the way she writes her characters is amazing. And it's not dry at all. And there's a lot of dialogue. It's very much a dialogue-driven series. And I just don't know how she did what she did. So Wolf Hall trilogy, Wolf Hall is the first one, Bring Up the Bodies is the second one, Mirror in the Light is the third one, and it starts with when Henry Tudor is trying to obtain his divorce from Catherine of Aragon and goes up through his marriage and the untimely death of his third wife, Jane Seymour. So Hilary Mantel, if you haven't listened to it, watched it, or read it, please do so. We have them in every version possible in the system. They're on Overdrive and Hoopla.
Mine was The Weight of Lies by Emily Carpenter, and this is about a woman whose mother is a famous author who has quite a cult following behind her, and on the forums of her following, they believe that she committed the murders of which she writes about. So she's been a pretty crappy mom, and the daughter's kind of fed up, so she decides she's going to write a novel about her mom and kind of exposing her. So she goes to investigate these murders and unearths a lot of other dark secrets that she was not expecting. So I never knew what to expect from this novel. It was thrilling and just suspenseful, and I loved that it had this kind of look into what it would be like to be the daughter of someone who is so famous that they have a following behind them. But it was crazy at times, and it was just really entertaining.
Sounds
Surprise,
good.
yeah.
It sounds really good. I already added it, so.
Yeah.
The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. And it would be, I said, what if you could deny your race? Would you? There were twin sisters, and one did, and one didn't.
All right. What was the most surprising read or movie to you?
Mine was American Dirt by Cummings. I know there was some sort of drama going on with that, somewhat, I guess, and I didn't know anything about that, but I read it. It had gotten a lot of hype, and I was very surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I really connected to the story. I was just reading really quickly because I wanted to make sure like what was going to happen. It was very realistic, very dark. It told the truth, and it really made me think about a lot of difficult topics. But it's about a woman and her son. Her husband was a journalist, and he was killed by one of the drug cartels in Mexico. And the only way that they can get to safety is to try to get across Mexico and get into the United States. And it really makes you think about the issue of immigration and stuff. It's not just some kind of, story that's happening somewhere else to people somewhere else. It really brings you inside of it. And I couldn't read fast enough there at the end. And it wasn't a completely happy ending. It was very realistic, but yeah, I thought it was really good. So it really surprised me, because sometimes when books get so much hype, they let you down. There's no way they can possibly meet up to it, but I thought it was wonderful. So that would be American Dirt by Janine Cummings.
My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. And this book was really dark, very dark. And a subject
Hence the title.
Yes, and a subject that wasn't great, but it was well written. And the thing that was so surprising was, in the beginning, she put a blurb in there about the fact that it was not based on true events. And she wanted everybody to know that from the beginning. But something came out, and those denials all changed. It was based on true events. She had to reveal that.
I guess the most surprising for me this year was going through Better Call Saul Season 5. It was surprising to me because I hold the show Breaking Bad in very high esteem, and I think Breaking Bad is probably the best TV series ever made, and I was very hesitant when I heard they were making a spin-off show about a supporting character. I'm also very skeptical of prequels in general, so Better Call Saul had a lot going against it. For anyone who's not familiar, Better Call Saul stars Bob Odenkirk as scrappy lawyer Jimmy McGill before he becomes the bottom-feeding huckster Saul Goodman in the events of Breaking Bad. I'm happy to say that my reservations were completely unfounded, as this series has not only met the standards set by Breaking Bad, but I think with its most recent season surpassed them.
I agree.
Yeah. It could have been a slow, overly familiar march towards plot points we know will be hit. The series instead has given viewers an entirely new experience. You wouldn't think it's possible to spoil the beats of a prequel series for which we know the end point, but I'm going to refrain from getting into specifics, as where the show takes you manages to be completely surprising. The amount of tension the show manages to conjure and sustain is really remarkable, as the series focuses on characters whose fate has been established prior to the stories we are experiencing. The tone of Better Call Saul is one that is similar to Breaking Bad, yet manages to dive into more complex and confounding human behavior and interpersonal choices for characters we think we have come to know. I think it's honestly the best show on TV and is highly deserving of your time. All seasons, including the just-released Season 5, are available on DVD in our catalog. We also have the Breaking Bad seasons.
Do you think you have to watch Breaking Bad to watch?
No.
Okay.
No.
You know.
Stand alone.
Well, my most surprising read was How to Be a Good Creature by Cy Montgomery. and this is a nonfiction book about a woman who decided to dedicate her life to studying animals. She was actually disowned by her family because that was what she wanted to do. It's 10 or 12 different animals that she either had as pets or had studied, and it was in their lives and how they taught her something about herself and how to feel about the world and different emotions. So essentially just how to be a better creature in the world. But it was just very enlightening because it's personal to her and you get to see into her personal life, but you also get to learn more about animals. Like some of them are dogs, but some of them, like one is an octopus, and and it was that one was mostly based around like motherhood and stuff. So a lot of it was just so unexpected. And the physical book has illustrations in it as well, and they were just gorgeous. And I think anyone of any age could read this and get something from it. It was just, I read it in one sitting because I was just like, this is just so, it was heartwarming. Okay, well, what was the worst book or movie of 2020 for you?
Shane, what do you have to say, sir?
I have a screed. I have to be honest and say that I tend to let my viewing and reading habits be limited to things I'm pretty confident beforehand will be worth my time. This is just a way I've tried to deal with the overabundance of media available to us. As a result, I rarely find myself coming away after reading or watching, wishing I hadn't spent the time. I was incredibly let down by the 2020 horror film The Lodge, which starts with a terrific premise and atmosphere only to completely crap the bed in the last quarter of the film.
Wow.
It makes it somehow worse when the movie has so much potential and then can't follow through with it. So I would recommend that you watch the first 50 minutes of The Lodge and then turn it off, because after that it's not worth it. Thumbs way down.
I just finished Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. It was just disappointing. I wanted to be scared, and it did do that to me. So, if you're going to be a horror, you better scare me.
Listen.
I was just disappointed.
What horror story? Novels don't scare. Like, real people in real life is so scary right now, but there's no way a novel is going to scare me.
That's probably true. That's probably why I wasn't scared. And my other one is When No One Was Watching. And I know you and I are both on the same page with that book. It's by Alyssa Cole, and I mean, it was highly anticipated.
It's so much hype, so much hype.
Yeah, and it was a total letdown.
Yes.
And a bizarre ending.
Very bizarre. It wasn't a cohesive story, and it wasn't that it wasn't well written. If it would have been billed as like even a historical fiction,
Right.
because when they're talking about the gentrification of the neighborhoods and things, like I found that very interesting.
I did. Yes,
I found it
definitely-
very
something
well.
I didn't
Yes.
know a lot about.
I loved the heroine.
Right.
I really liked her. I liked her spirit. It really gave me some insight into, the difference between diversity and the difference between people and,
Right.
the prejudices we all have, whether we will admit to having them or not, and just getting them out there and talking about them. And I really, really liked it, but it was billed as a horror story. All right, Allie, what was yours?
Mine was The Guest List by Lucy Foley, which was the Goodreads winner for mystery thriller. And I would highly disagree with that. There was nothing mysterious or thrilling about those. Basically there's this wedding happening on this private island, and someone is found dead, but you don't know who is found dead and you don't know who has done it. But it just felt very bland. The story was very predictable. It was just like every mystery novel I've ever read in one book. It was trying to do too much, I think, and be too shocking, and it just didn't work. So the hype definitely was not there for me. I just read it and was kind of like, oh, I can see exactly where this is going already.
Well, it was also kind of, I think she was trying to draw in the and then there were none factor by Agatha Christie. So I think a lot of people who love Agatha Christie and like that type of mystery were like super psyched about it, and it just didn't carry through. And there were, I think what you said was great. There were pretty much every like mystery cliche
Yeah.
there possibly could ever be in it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Maybe if mystery thriller, this is like your first time into it.
Yeah, I think yes.
But
Yeah.
as someone who reads a lot of that, it just was quite the letdown. How did 2020 change your reading habits?
Looking back at what I consumed in 2020, it's really obvious that I resorted to the familiar. I think this is the result of knowing that I had more time on my hands and also wanting to experience something I knew I loved, because this was a rough year. I reread books and rewatched things that have a proven track record of keeping me in my comfort zone. I also spent a lot of time outside in 2020, not around people, as a way of coping with everything, so I didn't get as much reading done as I would have liked. That being said, I think I got something different out of revisiting things that I loved this past year, so no regrets on that front. My most repeated, I reread Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind by Hayao Miyazaki. That's available in our catalog in print. And I rewatched The Nice Guys by Shane Black with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe.
All I did during the lockdown was walk, listen to books, walk, listen to books, and I did that sometimes twice a day. So I listened to a lot of books. So it was great.
I think it reawakened my connection with reading and reading for just purely love of reading. I mean, when you work in a library, everybody thinks, well, oh, you must just read all day. That's the actual opposite. We do not have time to read. But also, then it kind of takes a love of yours and sometimes makes it into work. I fell in love with reading again, and I also learned new mediums because I like print books. Yes, I do, and I didn't care. But I didn't have the option to do print books, so I really got into Libby and Hoopla.
Well, I was the total opposite. I feel like this year I felt a great disconnect between reading and enjoying what I was reading.
Mhm.
I had a really hard time sitting down to read anything because I have a hard time shutting my brain down from everything going on. I'm a very stressed person. So I found my mind wandering far too often to sit down and spend time with the book. My audiobook, though, listening increased like tenfold. The majority of my reading was done through audiobooks because it was something that I could listen to while I was also doing other things and keeping my mind occupied in that respect while also doing other things to keep myself occupied. So I will say that this is, in the past 5 years, this has been the least I have read in a year. So, it was a rough year. What are your most anticipated titles for 2021?
Well, there's a rumor happening again that Winds of Winter will be released in 2021.
I don't know if I'm putting my faith in that one, but
I'm not. It's been, I think, 11 years now. And then one that's definitely coming out is Later by my friend Stephen King, and it is it's like a crime drama. I think it sounds like a combination of Hearts in Atlantis and The Outsider, maybe. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And then Hidden Valley Road by Robert Kopler. It came out in 2020, but I haven't had a chance to get to it.
I'm looking forward to Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. He is an auto-buy author for me, and he is coming out with an adult vampire fantasy. Vampires are making a comeback, and I am here for it. And then A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee, which takes place at a magical school, and I do believe that it deals with a girl who gets involved with an occult. So
I feel like Shane's might have something to do with some type of vengeance also.
revenge stories.
Revenge.
I don't know. Not explicitly, anyway. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, author of The Martian. It's coming out in May. A lone astronaut wakes up with memory loss, not realizing that he is humanity's lone hope for survival to prevent an extinction-level event. The next and supposedly final installment of the Expanse series, Leviathan Falls, coming out this year by James S.A. Corey. In my top 10 releases of the year was the trade paperback Pulp by, for my money, the best writer-artist duo in comics today, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. They did the noir series Fatale. They excel in the desperate down-on-his-luck character, makes bad decisions to improve his situation genre. I'll read anything they put to paper, and they had 2 releases scheduled for this year, and I'm excited about both of them. Scene of the Crime. This was a book that was out of print. This is the new edition. One of the earliest efforts. It's a modern noir about a private detective tasked with finding a missing person, coming out next month. And Friend of the Devil, a Reckless book coming out in April. It's a sequel to 2019's Reckless. This one is supposedly about Hollywood's secret occult underbelly. Those are my, Electo the Ninth, Tamsin Muir.
So a lot of the books that I have on my list are historical fiction. The first is The Prophet by Robert Jones Jr. It's a debut novel, and it's about a forbidden union between 2 enslaved young men on a Deep South plantation, the refuge they find with each other. Is The Rose Code by Kate Quinn, who wrote The Alice Network and The Huntress. They were great books. And it's about code breakers. So it is also historical fiction. The Women of Chateau, Lafayette by Stephanie Dre, who wrote America's First Daughter. It is an epic saga based on a true story of an extraordinary castle in the heart of France and the remarkable women bound by its legacy. Sunflower Sisters, which is by Martha Hall Kelly, and she wrote, her first book was Lilac Girls, the second was Lost Roses, and this is the third. So this is a prequel. And it's about...
We know you like prequels.
I know, guess what? Civil War. Civil War. And Eternal by Lisa Scottoline, which is a departure from her suspense thriller, so there's been a ton of hype about this. It's a sweeping and a shattering epic of historical fiction fueled by shocking true events, the tale of a love triangle that unfolds in the heart of Rome and in the creeping shadows of fascism.
Your reading and watching resolutions for 2021.
But I like to allow for situations where I'm taking more of a chance and surprise more often in my watching and viewing habits. Need to make sure I'm not taking on more than I can focus on, and I also want to allow myself to not get distracted by the constant barrage of news. I should be winding down and focusing on what I want to read instead of what I think I should be reading. I also need to make sure that I'm giving myself time to read when I'm not about to fall asleep in the next 10 minutes. Because that happened far too often this past year.
Read more reviews on books before I read and recommend them. I think I do, but obviously I'm missing something. Because I recommend books that I read and then realize they're not that great. So it happened to me this year, but I'm going to try not to let that happen to me. Or this year. So that's my resolution.
I always say that I'm going to do this and I never do, so who knows, but read something like that I don't normally read, because I get really locked in on the stuff I'm into, and then like I get annoyed by everything else and don't even, like, it just annoys me, because there's not enough time in the day. Story, romance.
I say it. I'm calling it.
What?
Rom-com.
Oh God, no.
Yes. Oh yes.
Sometimes you just need a good one, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll try
To
one.
just distress.
Maybe I'll try one of those. But I never really keep resolutions anyway, so if we're still doing this, I'll probably say I didn't do any of that. I'm just being honest, because everybody says they're going to do it, and then they don't, and they're not honest about it.
That's a giant. Right now.
Well, yes, Allie just really does try to give me those good recommendations, but I just can't because he's not. I just can't. But we'll see. I'm going to try. I will. Yes. No, I'm not. I'm lying. I'm not going to do it.
She's going to do it
No, I'm not.
this summer for sure.
No. I get, okay, Liz, then when it's safe to get back together, you shall have to make me dinner, because I'm not coming unless there's food. You can find
Okay, well, we already have a bet on wine, so okay.
I was actually going to include a rom-com in what must surprise me in my viewing habits.
You all are
Skip to it.
pressuring me.
What was it?
What was it? Now you have to tell us.
I'm going to go through the whole thing since you
Yes, we're on page 3.
I'm also extremely late to the party on this, but I finally watched the 1987 film Moonstruck after years of avoiding
Oh
it.
my God! Oh, you have killed Liz.
Oh,
I
I
hope
love
you're
that.
happy.
I watched it like 6 times in the past year.
What is happening right now?
It's absolutely delightful. The movie stars Cher and Nicolas Cage as romantic partners who find each other only after Cher is engaged to Cage's brother.
This sounds
Hair.
great.
Cage's character is a furious and passionate man who inexplicably blames his brother for the loss of his hand and subsequently his fiancée.
What?
I hate that the term has to even exist, but I think I'm what they call a Cage apologist. But believe me when I say Nicolas Cage in this movie is truly something to behold. The thing I appreciate about it is it deals with issues of infidelity as well as romance in advanced age with emotional honesty and never loses its light tone. It's really one of the best feel-good movies I've ever seen, and it surprised the hell out of me. Highly recommend it. We have it on DVD and Blu-ray, but you want to watch it on Blu-ray if you can because it has this wonderful naturalistic lighting of New York and what I think is its prime period. So yeah, check out Moonstruck.
The show's title is Let's Get Lit.
We'll just do a drunk episode.
For every episode.
Is that what you were doing? I thought that was coffee shade.
Not
All right,
Okay.
where are we at here, people? Let's pull ourselves together.
All right, that is it for our New Year's episode. Let us know in the comments wherever you are watching or listening. What was your best, most surprising, and or worst read of the year? We would really like to know. And we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for Let's Get Lit. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. If you have any questions, suggestions, or want recommendations, please contact us either in the comments section, by giving us a call, or by emailing us at letsgetlit@AlleghenyCountyLibrary.info.